Hi, my name is Matt and I'm doing a series of videos to try and help people with their Zycoo IP-based bell paging and emergency notification system so they can support themselves and don't need as much help from their supplier or their IT professionals. In this video we're going to look at how to actually set up an endpoint so that it will interact with the IP Audio Center. Now for this to work you need to have already set up the device within the IP Audio Center, which sounds counterintuitive, but if you've watched the video Zycoo adding devices to Zycoo Audio Center, then you'll know what we've already created. That end, basically, it's now looking for this device or waiting for this device to connect. Now we've got to set the device up so that it goes looking for the IP Audio Center. And to do that we need to enter the web GUI of the device, which is the graphic user interface, and so we need to know the IP address of that device. I'm not going to show you how to get that at this point, we'll have another video for that, but I've got the address of this device and I'm going to hit enter. You'll come up with your username and password, and if this is still at default then it's just admin or lowercase. If that's been changed then you'll have to contact whoever changed that, and so you can get that information. And then we're just going to hit login, and you'll see it comes up with the option within Google anyway to change the password, as it's come up with a password breach because admin is a very generic password that gets breached all the time. So you can do that if you need to, but it depends on your network and where you're using it, things like that, whether you feel it's necessary or not. So you'll see we'll log in and we've got our device info, which at the moment is unconfigured, and just shows you what the model of the device is, what its current hardware version or what its hardware version is. Some devices are on version 2, most of them are still on version 1. And then we have a software version. So you'll notice at the beginning there's a 1 that goes specifically with the hardware version. So if you've got a hardware version 2, then your software needs to also start with the 2. And when it was last started, and what the current speaker volume is set to, what the mic volume is set to, what the description is. So at this point we can change the description to suit whatever room we're in. We can either just remove the IA03, which is your intercom audio, or you leave that there and just put a room name next to it. So for us it's in the showroom, and that helps. You'll see that changes the name given at the top of the tab, so that helps if you've got multiple tabs open and they're all IA03s. It'll help you identify which is which, and that's the only place that's shown. So that name there, the device description, is only shown in the web browser. Then down the bottom you've got the MAC address of the device, whether it's set to DHCP or static. This is set to DHCP, and then what the current IP address, subnet, gateway and primary DNS are, or domain name server. And then we go to our SIP settings, and we're going to go to primary SIP account. So you can actually have this speaker set up with 3 different SIP accounts. So we can go into that in a bit more detail in another video. You can also have a peer-to-peer account. There's audio codecs and advanced SIP settings, which we're not going to go to in this setup. So we're just going to be looking at a primary SIP account. And so you want to get your SIP server IP address, which in our instance is 192.168.7.100. SIP port, you just leave that as default, and the user ID is the SIP number that you've set up for this device previously within the Audio Center. For this device it's 1001, and then the authorized user is also 1001, so just the same as what the SIP number is. The domain you can leave blank and it'll autofill, but it's basically the same as, I forgot a dot there, it's the same as the SIP server number, so I'll leave that blank. Password is the password again that you have allocated for that device within the IP Audio Center when you set the devices up. And in my case I normally do 123 at the moment for setups, and then you leave the registration, transport, exactly what they are. You don't want to change those. Auto answer yes, and so that means when there's a page happening, the device will auto answer. You don't have to do anything to make that answer. And then we're going to allow integration with the IP Audio Center, and then we're going to activate it. And when we hit submit, it'll go through and do those settings. Should see a success updated. And if we go back to our device info, if you've done your job right, both with the device itself under this primary SIP account and with the audio center, then you should have a registered and idle stance. Then once that's done, you can go do some other settings. So in advance, you might want to set the volume of the device itself. So within the dispatch console, you're doing a percentage of what this volume is set to. So if you've got one room that's smaller than the other, you can have the speaker volume of that room set to 5, and then when a bell is paged, it's 70% or 90% or 100% of 5 versus this room, which could be 7. And then if you've got a mic attached, so it's for intercom purposes, so that could be an X10 that's set up to be an intercom. It could be the square speakers, which are intercoms as well, or the wall speakers and the ceiling speakers. If you've got a Series 2 that's set up for intercoms, you can have this on, and that mic AGC is auto gain control. So that means that the volume of the microphone will go between a minimum of 2 and a maximum of 6, depending on the ambient noise it picks up in the room. So I normally turn that off and I set this to maximum. So you want the microphone to be at its maximum gain at all times. So you never find that this overpowers the system. So that's what I normally do. And then you've got a key beep. And then a music auto resumes. So if there's music playing when, for whatever reason, the power shuts down on that speaker, when it comes back on, that music will resume. I normally leave that off because that's normally not what you would want. And the key beep, I'm not even sure of. It's a new one, I think. So we're just going to hit submit on that. You should get a success updated. And then within this, you've also got your settings for triggering from relays, which we're not going to go into in this video. API settings, multicast settings, language, audio files, all of which we're not going to go into this video. And then you come down to system, and then you've got network. So if you're using it on DHCP, then you just leave that as it is. Otherwise, you can go in and put static information in there. You can go to time and choose your time zone. Now this is not essential because the time normally comes from the server anyway, but it's good practice to go through and just change this to what you need. So Pacific Auckland, and hit submit. Now when you do that, that'll actually do a restart of the device. I'm not going to do that right now because it's going to take about 60 seconds. You've got account options to doing your password. You can do an upgrade of the firmware, which is covered in another video, and then you've got your reboot and reset, which is also covered in another video. But essentially you can do a reboot of the device itself, you can do a factory reset of the device, and you can also enable a reboot, whether it's daily, weekly, monthly, and you choose what hour of the day it does it, and this is in a 24-hour setting, and what minute of that hour if you require, and then hit submit. And then under maintenance, there's more options that again I'm not going to go to in this video, but will be covered in a future video. And that's really all there is to integrating a device into the IP Audio Center. Thanks.